Hello everyone and welcome to the Trada webinar, Optimizing Social Ads with Paid Search. I'm your moderator today, Anna Sawyer. I will be introducing all of our speakers in just a moment. Everyone, thanks for being with us today. We have some great content and some great speakers. Please, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, go ahead and type them directly into the chat box and we will get to as many questions as we can at the end. We love answering your questions. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers now. We have on the line with us Dan Peterson, who is the founder of Addis Media. He's actually a Trada optimizer as well, which means that he works for our company Trada, optimizing paid search ads. And he is a paid search and LinkedIn ads expert. Dan, welcome and thank you for being with us.
Thank you, guys.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience working in paid search?
Absolutely. So I've been working in paid search for about 4 years now. I'm a digital marketing expert, as she said, managing multi-channel optimization. So my experience has been taking a single overarching budget and then testing and applying it to many different channels to figure out what is the optimal combination of spend between Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, Bing, Yahoo when it existed. My experience has really been trying to figure out, what's the exact split that helps you best return for your investment.
Well, we are very lucky to have you with us here today. Thank you so much for being here. We're also lucky enough to have Chad Hacker. Chad is the Director of Optimizer Enablement here at Trada, and he is a real Facebook ads and paid search expert. Welcome, Chad.
Hey, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be on the call. As Anna mentioned, I'm the Director of Optimizer Enablement for Trada. Primarily, I oversee the recruitment and vetting and training of new optimizers that we bring into our crowd, as well as developing engagement programs and product development to make sure that our optimizers are successful. I've been doing paid search for about 4 years, just like Dan, and been doing Facebook advertising for the last couple of years. Also been working on some pilot programs with Facebook, and excited to be on the call.
Great. Thanks so much for being with us, Chad. And this one is me. I'm Anna Sawyer. I also work here at Trada. I am AdWords qualified, and I've been working as a paid search and Facebook ads educator for about 2.5 years. So we do have one other person in the room with us here today. Alex Vaccaro is working the chat, and she will be happy to answer any of your questions, help you with technical issues, and please continue to send out your questions. I cannot stress this enough. We are very, very happy to answer them. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. Let's talk a little bit about, one more thing. Everyone, please use the hashtag today, tweet out PPC and social, and you could win a $25 Amazon.com gift card. You could tweet out some things that maybe Chad or Dan talk about, some questions that you might have. Please go ahead and use the hashtag, and one of you could win a cool $25. So now I really am going to jump in. So let's talk about why social ads and why now. People are talking about social a lot. Chad, looks like you have something to say.
Sure. First of all, that you can't deny the amount of people that are on these social platforms, with Facebook hitting the 1 billion user mark, millions and millions of accounts on Twitter. It's absolutely necessary for your business to be successful, to be exploring these new platforms. It's funny when I think about 15 years ago or so, when people were like, oh, I don't really want a website, I don't need a website, and they lost out on a lot of traffic and were behind the curve. I would strongly encourage everyone to start thinking about how they can use some of the social advertising platforms to integrate into their overall marketing approach.
Another element of social ads is that it is a way for you to reach brand new traffic. So a lot of our marketing channels rely on lists or nurturing or, searchers using intent, things like paid search. But when it comes to social media, it's a way for you to reach a demographic that you may have never been able to reach before. And then finally, and this is kind of exciting, social ads are measurable. They're attainable. They're capable of driving ROI for the first time. A criticism that was accurate for a very long time was that social was not measurable, but it's becoming much more so. So, here we have a couple of statistics for you. 67% of a brand's Twitter followers are more likely to buy from you. There's this level of engagement that comes from people taking time out of the part of their life that is reserved for not buying and becoming a fan, becoming a brand follower that makes them more likely to follow you.
So it's a really important point. Early adopters of social advertising complained that there wasn't a positive ROI, and I think they were missing the full loop of closing the sales funnel, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But these statistics are staggering that, engaging with users on Twitter and Facebook drastically improves, ROI from a traditional standpoint. And then we also have some information on what you should be tracking and what really is important with both Facebook advertising, Twitter advertising, and LinkedIn.
So I'd like
and another point to another point to Chad's comment is social media being one of those early adopters to advertising on social media. They really hadn't closed the loop in terms of integrating social media into the daily aspect of so many people's lives. There's millions of people out there who are constantly checking Twitter and Facebook and updating their lives. They've really used this as a conduit to actually run their social life and their real world life through this online digital space. And that's something that early adopters couldn't have foreseen and didn't really tap into. But now they're seeing the rewards as an early advertiser, someone who's built up the status and built up the advertising account, really as people start to engage and trust these networks. So it's incredible what's happened in the last few years.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Dan. All right, everyone, I'm going to take the opportunity to run a quick little poll. If you don't mind just clicking directly onto your screen, we will give you just a couple moments to complete this poll, and then we'll show the responses to everyone. So we're curious to know which social channels you currently use specifically for paid ads. Are you using Facebook ads? Are you running ads on LinkedIn? On Twitter, we have the option to run promoted tweets, trends, and accounts, or are you just learning about things, and that's why you're here with us today. So I'm going to give you just a couple more seconds to click directly onto your screen, and then we will go to the results. All right, 2 more seconds. Let's get to the results. Facebook ads, very popular. LinkedIn ads and promoted tweets, trends, and accounts. We will talk about all of these things today, so we'll give you some real practical, actionable tips for ways that you can use your paid search data to inform these channels. And for those of you who are just learning, welcome.
We're going to make sure that you're comfortable and knowledgeable about how to use these platforms, and hopefully you can feel confident to dive in and start integrating into your marketing strategy.
Yep, and please remember to keep typing your questions in. We will answer questions at all levels for those of you who are just learning, for those of you who are looking to really optimize your Facebook ads, and it looks like we are already getting some questions. All right, moving right along, let's talk a little bit about the difference between ROI when it comes to something that you've done before, like paid search or like direct marketing, and the ROI when we're talking about an engaged fan or a retweet.
It's a really important question, and probably the primary question I get from new advertisers to Facebook or another social platform is they're traditionally viewing it through the lens of paid search metrics and what's my ROI. And it's important to think about a direct value of social advertising, something in terms of did they make a purchase, did they sign up. But it's also really important to think of an indirect value of generating a new fan or a new follower, and particularly around those that are engaged and can be what I call influencers, and they can really help influence other people's purchasing habits. It's a little bit more difficult to come up with an exact number, but if you're paying attention to maybe the Insights tab on Facebook or looking at some of the different Twitter metrics, those are the type of people who are most valuable to your company, is the people that are engaged in influencing buying patterns.
And this is not to say that social media and social paid ads can't be used for direct response or to drive direct conversions, because they can, and we will talk about this a little bit later in the webinar. But it is important when you are engaging with social ads to think about the other types of values that they offer. So another really common question before we get into our practical tips is why advertise, why pay for ads when you can engage for free? So first of all, you'll see that I have a clever little asterisk after the word free here, and we'll talk a little bit about what it means to run a really sophisticated free Twitter campaign. But the idea here is that if you think of a traditional sales funnel, which is of course a very old school idea that most of us are probably familiar with, which is commonly challenged in lots of different ways, but if you think of this very classic sales funnel, things like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn ads are at the top of the sales funnel. These are people who have never heard of you, you are simply educating about your presence. Down at the bottom, we have paid search because this is defined by intent. This is someone who has been searching for you and who has clicked on an ad. We do want to move people down through the funnel constantly. We want to take people from the top and move them down to the bottom, but it's important still to add potential customers at all stages of the funnel, and so this allows us to do that.
Certainly. I was just going to say that this was an evolution in how we sort of look at social advertising. Most people, first launching into social advertising, we're looking at the bottom of the funnel. It's important to realize that, as you spend money engaging or acquiring new fans, new followers, you definitely also need a plan in place, content-wise, of how to keep them engaged, keep them interacting with your brand to move them down that funnel.
And finally, in our earlier conversations about the webinar, Dan, you and I talked a little bit about what free means and how free actually often means earned. Can you speak a little bit to the difference between free and earned and what a free social media marketing channel really means?
Absolutely. I think it's really important for businesses to really focus on the cost, value, and return that they're getting out of anything that you're doing. We spend oftentimes quite a bit of our time trying to improve processes around our office. And that's for a time efficiency aspect so that you can actually earn time to spend it elsewhere. I see businesses all the time who are investing in social media, and sadly enough, oftentimes it's people that are higher up in the chain. You'll get a CEO or a president who's out there tweeting on behalf of your company, and that's really time that he could be applying to other aspects of his business. So although some of the social media campaigns are free because you're not physically paying for them, you are investing time and energy into updating and maintaining them, which is another reason to consider the ads portion of social media advertising, because it really can help simplify your time and the amount of effort that you have to push towards engaging and collecting and growing your user base through social media.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. Great point. So I'm going to move along and talk a little bit about the reciprocal nature of paid search and social media. For the most part in this webinar, we will focus on using paid search data to inform your social media channels. But PPC needs social media as well. Here are a couple of statistics that we found from ComScore and GroupM Search that are a little hard to ignore. A 50% click-through rate increase in paid search when consumers were exposed to both influenced social media and paid search. That's pretty intense. This is awesome. And this really speaks to Chad's point that especially now as the momentum is growing in paid search advertising, now is the time to jump in.
Absolutely. And when most marketers and business owners, CEOs, they're thinking of the bottom line and what's this bringing to my business, not only do most advertisers see an increase in CTR, but you're also going to see an increase in your overall conversion rate on your paid search campaign if you are sort of coupling that with a social media campaign.
So here's really what we're going to talk about in today's webinar. Social needs PPC. So today we're going to teach you how to test ads in real time, how to come to the table with landing pages that you've already tested, and also how to work on targeting, which is something that can be very, very confusing, using data from your PPC that you already have.
So one point I just wanted to add to that is something that Dan and I had sort of talked about yesterday. Running a PPC campaign is really a gold mine of data, and there's so much that you can learn and extrapolate for social advertising campaigns. But it's important to view this in the sort of lens of, you're starting with what you know from PPC, you're applying that to social, and then you're letting the performance numbers from social really sort of dictate the direction that you move with social. So, keep that in mind as we go through some of these things, that this is a great tool for starting off point, and then there's additional, resources and data that you should be looking at in your social campaigns.
And to that point, make sure to share data between the two. Maybe you use your PPC campaign to launch your social campaign, But if you do, as we get in, and we'll show you top performing ads and things that we've done to help really lift our social click-through rate, then take that learning and go back and try and apply it to your PPC account. Maybe it's going to open your eyes to a whole different level of search or behavior that you've never seen before. Maybe it doesn't work at all, and at least you know that, and you can feel good that you've gone out and tested something new.
And this speaks to advice that I think we would give to any digital marketer who's working in any arena. Don't allow any of your don't allow any of your marketing channels to be in a silo. One of the ways to determine the additional value of a marketing channel outside of simply the sales that it gives you is how much data it can generate. A channel that can give you lots of interesting information, its value is increased.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk a lot about the data that PPC generates today. There are so many things that you can test. Even just writing 2 ads in an ad group and then seeing which one performs better is, in essence, a sophisticated A/B testing program.
Sure, and I think that most people who have been running paid search campaigns are pretty familiar with the idea of A/B testing, and whether that's through ad copy, landing pages, match types, all sorts of things. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you can use that same mentality and use it for social.
Yep. So at the end of the day, think of paid search as more than just lead generation. The data it produces is a big deal. So we're going to jump right into it. This is our agenda for today. We're going to talk about Facebook, we're going to talk about LinkedIn, and we're going to talk about Twitter. So Facebook ads, and I'm going to turn the presentation largely over to Chad, although we'll keep this like a conversation. Facebook ads, what are Facebook ads used for generally?
It's an awesome question, and I think that in the early days of Facebook advertising, they were used for a similar intent as paid search. And as people learned more and more data came back, they learned better uses for Facebook advertising, and it really was to engage and find users to interact with your brand. So I really hope everyone views Facebook advertising with the lens of how can I tap into a potential new market and how can I get them to engage with my brand.
So we're going to talk about a couple of different types of actual ads that are put on Facebook today. So we have 2 basic types of ads. We have basic ads, which show up in the right-hand side of your feed. And then we also have sponsored stories, which can show up a few different places. They can even show up in your ticker.
That is absolutely true. And my opinion, and Dan, you can jump in here with your thoughts, but I'm a big fan of the sponsored stories. They certainly engage the user more. There is more sharing and liking, and it tells more of a story. So if advertisers were new to Facebook advertising, I might suggest that maybe you learn a little bit more about some of the sponsored stories and how those interact with the user rather than a traditional ad.
Now, we are going to cover Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn today, which means we won't have the opportunity to go really, really deep on all the different types of ads that are available and all of the different types of options that you have. But if you would like to learn more, we actually have 2 full-length, full-hour webinars just on Facebook ads. Their complexity of targeting. There's a ton of information there. Chad and myself hosted those webinars, and you can find those at trada.com/resources. And Alex, if you could go ahead and type that into the box so everyone can get those. If you have more to learn about Facebook, we cover a lot in those webinars.
We did, and they're really great. We did one for sort of beginning topics and then one that's a little bit more advanced, and so you can watch both of them and sort of get your feet wet and then figure out how to start utilizing the platform.
Yes. So when it comes to Facebook ads, the thing that is the trickiest is the targeting. How can you take this extreme potential of having all these different ways to target and know how to target things appropriately?
It is probably the trickiest and scariest, but at the end of the day, it is the most useful in that Facebook gives you targeting options that are not available in any other platform. So, we're going to talk about how you can use some of that PPC information that you've been gathering to inform some of these different targeting options in Facebook.
Now, most people who use Facebook target in a very predictable way because it seems most simple to target for things like age, location, and education level.
Sure. I think most marketing professionals have a general idea of the profile of their target market, and I would say that's an absolutely perfect place to start with some predictable targeting, and then we can talk about maybe some sort of outside-the-box thinking of how you can use Facebook targeting.
So today we're going to talk about the idea of the buyer persona. You've almost certainly been using these as you have been writing your marketing copy in paid search, as you've been writing emails, as you've been writing all sorts of things. This is the idea that you have an ideal customer out there and you have created a buyer persona around them. And specifically, you've been organizing PPC ad groups based on these buyer personas.
Sure. Perfect example I was thinking of on the drive to work this morning is I did a PPC campaign for a large resort casino in Vegas. And you can imagine there are thousands and thousands of ways to structure keywords for a campaign like that. To make this point quickly, one of the ad groups that was performing well from a click base was keywords around spa and spa services and weekend spa getaways. And you can take that information and really turn that into persona targeting on Facebook with perhaps females that are single between the ages of 21 and 35. And I think we have some different examples of how we can use persona targeting in both paid search ads and Facebook ads.
Yep,
and if I could jump in real quick, I also have another a bit of information that I've known advertisers to find very useful. For those of you who may not know exactly what your persona profile of your target customer, or maybe you want to go back and reevaluate what that looks like, Facebook actually allows you to kind of reverse engineer all of the clicks that you got. So you can go out with kind of a broader net of targeting if you would like. And then you can actually go back and they will give you a statistical breakdown of all of the different categories that users that clicked on your ad and engaged with your ad fit into. So maybe for some of you who are looking for kind of a market research study, it would be worth spending a few $1,000s to just test your ads across a much wider net than maybe you would have gone initially, and then go back and look and see what type of user was actually engaging with your brand. And I've seen it very successfully used as a very quick, dirty, easy market research study into what type of consumer is really looking and engaging with your brand. So that's another option that's out there as well.
And Dan, where do you find this information in the app?
You can find that under the reporting tab. Under the reporting tab in Facebook, you can actually pull detailed reports that will show you what the users who clicked on your ad look like as they fit into the Facebook targeting demographics.
Great, that's a great tip. All right, so we're going to give you a couple of examples here of PPC ads written specifically for this persona. So this is an affluent female luxury traveler who wants to go to the Hyde Bellagio, and you can see that these ads are specifically written to target her. Someone else who might go to the Hyde Bellagio, a 28-year-old dude with chains around his neck, won't necessarily click on these ads, and we've probably written different ads for him.
That's exactly right. So you're spending your money a bit more wisely in that the user that clicks on this type of ad fits that persona, as Anna mentioned. Guys looking for a guy's weekend are not going to click on the ad that says girls' night out. So nothing secret there, but keep that in mind as you're coming up with your ad copy.
And so here we've actually chosen some persona targeting based on age, gender, location, and interests. And I think this is a little small, but you can see some of the things we've targeted in here are women who like Gilt Group, traveling, Travel Zoo, Orbitz, cheap tickets. These are women who are specifically liking travel sites and liking, discount luxury goods.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything more to say about this idea of persona targeting, Chad, before we move on to the direct response portion?
Yeah, one of the things I just want to add as a tip, especially for new users coming into the Facebook space, is when you start to get into the interest and you may be a little scared or not sure which direction to go, I always tell new advertisers to Facebook to try to what I call ABC interest targeting. So if you go to the interest box in Facebook and type in a core theme, say marketing, and then type in marketing and then just type in the letter A, and a whole bunch of other interests will pop up, like affiliate marketing. And then once you're done with A, you type in B, and maybe business marketing comes up, and you type in C. And Facebook really intuitive and an amazing job that they've done in cataloging a bunch of different interests that if you sort of go through systematically, you're going to find ways to target that you hadn't even thought of.
Great, thanks, Chad. We want to move along a little bit quickly because I know we have a lot to cover and we have a lot of content. So I just want to make the point that you can use Facebook for direct response. We've talked before about how acquiring a Facebook fan begins a process. It begins the process of engagement. But we have actually seen customers and clients and advertisers successfully use the direct Facebook click to drive something like a coupon or an offer. So you can find out which offers tested well in your PPC campaign and use this to determine which offers you're going to use in your Facebook ads.
Certainly, and the only recommendation I would make is, from my experience, it's better to keep the user in the Facebook space. So you may want to consider developing a custom iframe landing page for your Facebook page rather than driving them to an external website.
So I have another quick poll for you, everyone, before we move on to LinkedIn. I'm curious to hear, what is your overall monthly digital marketing budget? So this could include paid search, this could include LinkedIn ads, Facebook ads, Twitter ads, direct mail. Well, no, that's not digital marketing. That was a trick. So please, if you don't mind going ahead and clicking directly onto your screen, just trying to get an idea of the size of companies that we have here today so that we can tailor our content. All right, I'm going to give you just a moment to continue to enter in your answers, and then we will skip to the results. Okay, here we go, skipping to the results. So we have a lot of SMBs today. We have, definitely some mid-market companies, and so we will make sure to include information for everyone today. All right, we're going to move on to the next portion of the webinar about LinkedIn ads. So LinkedIn ads are a different demographic than Facebook ads. These are people who are already in a sort of professional atmosphere. Dan, do you mind talking a little bit about the types of people who are on LinkedIn and who we drive these ads toward and who we should write the ads for?
No, absolutely. I'm actually very happy to talk about that. LinkedIn ads is LinkedIn is one of my favorite networks to target toward, specifically because it really does draw people in kind of a different light than you'll find almost anywhere else that I've found online. I was great to see in the ad earlier that many of you currently aren't using LinkedIn, and so this can be a good introduction to some of the value that LinkedIn can drive. We've done some studies for some of the companies that I've used, and we've actually seen through a direct response lead generation campaign 2x sales conversion rates for users that have found our company through LinkedIn versus finding the company through Facebook. And so trying to look in and find out exactly what that was, we started polling our salespeople as to what was the intent of this consumer that you took in through our lead gen campaign through the different social networks. And time again, what we found was that we were more likely to draw better contact information, more complete contact information, and a user that was really ready to respond as if they were in a professional business manner when they were engaging on LinkedIn. People are on there. Their personas that they represent are how they would like to see themselves in the business world. They tend to not want to use fake information. They tend to not want to push an agenda that they wouldn't want to represent themselves in real life. So I found LinkedIn to be especially effective for really promoting a business-minded company or an atmosphere that really promotes advertising in a business-focused sense. So it's important for advertisers to try. It may be difficult for someone like Chobani, who was mentioned earlier. Maybe not the best platform, but it's definitely a great platform for a lot of businesses out there who are looking to drive maybe a higher priced sale or a business-to-business sale.
And it's always worth testing, depending on what your market is. I believe, that LinkedIn clicks are competitively priced, so it's worth giving it a try. So just to be clear, we're going to talk about the types of ads that we're talking about today. LinkedIn has a few different types of ads in its interface. Self-service ads, which we'll be talking about today, and then text and display ads, which are sold in a completely different way, and those are not the ones we're talking about today. Is that correct, Dan?
Yeah, actually, so this box that's over here on the right, where the self-service ads is pointing to, that box is a multiple purpose box that LinkedIn actually uses to service inventory for all of their advertisers. So in that box, when you're on LinkedIn, you'll see sometimes you'll see a flash-based display ad. Sometimes you'll see a paid engagement ad where an advertiser can actually go to LinkedIn and have them run a study. And so you'll see a poll in that box. So you'll see a poll, let's say General Motors, and it'll say, what are you looking for in your next car purchase? Are you looking for fuel efficiency, a mid-sized vehicle, a van, or a truck? And so you'll see a drop-down poll. And if you actually engage with that poll, that'll take you to a separate LinkedIn landing page that will show you the response that other users have had to that poll, as well as advertisements for whatever brand is sponsoring that. So you'll see a combination of the display ads, you'll see the poll targeting, and then they'll run their self-service text ads, as you're seeing here, on a remnant basis. So if you actually engage with the self-service platform, that's the ad space that you'll be buying.
Okay, great. So we have a couple more, engaging statistics here. I think the one that is the most exciting to me is the idea that 50% of users are the business decision makers in their company. That is a pretty compelling statistic when it comes to the idea of trying out LinkedIn ads, which many of our viewers today have never tried. So I'm going to move along and talk about ad testing with PPC and using ads that perform well in PPC to write LinkedIn ads. So Dan, what we've done here is, and these are actually our ads, we saw a bunch of ads that we used in paid search that worked really well. And they were talking about things like stop paying for bad PPC, we are pay for performance. This is messaging that tested well in paid search. It tested better than other messaging. So when we launched our LinkedIn ads, we launched a bunch of ads using that messaging, which is a good way to kick off a new type of marketing campaign. Use messaging that worked before. But as you'll see, we actually got an incredibly low click-through rate, 0.1% click-through rate. So don't assume that you can use these messages verbatim. But rather than throwing out the baby with the bathwater here, we took these ads and we augmented them to work more for a LinkedIn audience. So Dan, do you mind talking a little bit about the strategy of writing ads for LinkedIn?
No, absolutely. This is actually, Trada recruited me to run their LinkedIn account. So this is actually ad copy testing that I did myself on behalf of Trada for trying to engage new advertisers to join the Trada network. When I took over the campaign, they were at the stages of testing LinkedIn from the previous slide, where they were using a lot of their paid search ads and finding them to not be as effective as they were hoping. At this point, when I kind of stepped in and started working with the folks at Trada, they weren't sure if LinkedIn was going to work for them because they just weren't finding the engagement that they were looking for when they were testing the network. I went in and applied some of the best practices that I've used for other advertisers. As you'll see here, an attention-grabbing headline that's really going to jump out to a user. If you're looking for the business decision maker, you can go ahead and use the business decision maker in your headline. In this one, attention marketing executive. You're paying on a cost per click basis, so you can afford to have people who aren't the business decision maker look at your ad and say, oh, I'm not a marketing executive, this isn't for me. So in this case, we tried this ad. We used a lot of the same components, a compelling message in the description of what value can I use to drive to your business. I've got your attention. Now what am I trying to communicate with you? Stop paying for bad paid search. Learn about our pay performance network. Right there you have the picture of Trada, the brand. It's really a great engagement for the user. And as you'll see, it increased click-through rate as well as conversion rate, click-through rate by 400%. So it made a world of difference in terms of their advertising.
And this all comes back to our overarching point from the webinar, which is, working without data when you are entering into a new type of campaign is like a shot in the dark. But still, be critical of your results. Continue to test. Don't assume that you can use things verbatim. But at the same time, remember that messaging tested well at one point and that there's a good chance that it will test well in the future.
I just wanted to add in quickly, and I don't want to take too much time on this. I know we've got a lot to cover, but in the interest of testing, I also encourage all users to test the images that they're using, both in LinkedIn and Facebook, and perhaps do a little bit of research on the type of images that work the best for either of those platforms. They're certainly different than other digital marketing display ads or other images that you've used in different marketing strategies. So make sure that they're simple and clear and readable or visual in that small of a space.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest point. Is make the image focus on one theme, and understand that it's very small. It needs to be understandable in a tenth of a second. Someone looks at it and, oh, this is a face of a pretty girl, or this is a brand, or this is a recognizable symbol that I've seen before. So something that's definitely very clear, very important.
And also, when you are testing your ads, remember that images and text are separate elements. And so don't forget to run truly scientific tests where you only test one element at a time. Because if you test two ads against one another and they have different images and different text, there are too many elements there for you to really understand your data. So I am sensitive to the amount of time that we have, so I am going to move through the landing page portion relatively quickly. We want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn is unique to these different social marketing ad channels because it's the only one that you generally tend to send traffic back to your site. So it is often conversion focused as opposed to Twitter where you're looking for engagement or retweets, or Facebook where you're looking for fans that you can then remarket to. So it is a good opportunity for you to use the landing pages that you have tested in paid search. Dan, can you talk a little bit about driving traffic back to your website and how that differs from everything else?
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually found this to be the most effective use of the LinkedIn advertising platform. As she's mentioned, people don't seem to be as interested with engaging with the brands through LinkedIn, but rather finding more and really running a direct response element, which being a direct response marketer is fantastic. That's why I love the platform. In terms of landing page composition, a few tips that I'll give you guys quickly would be that I would keep the landing page clear and concise. I would keep it fairly short, and I would definitely have a contact information field. We found through our analytics, a lot of users coming from LinkedIn maybe only spend a few seconds on your site, and maybe all that they want to do is kind of request more information, and they're going to move on with the rest of their world. If you're attacking marketing executives, CEOs, presidents, decision makers, those people tend to be very busy people, and they don't like messing around with fluff a lot of times. They are interested in learning more about Trada. Here's my phone number. Give me a call. We'll set up and chat about it. So make sure you have the contact information right on the form. The landing page is clear and concise. And if possible, give them social links on the page to connect with you via Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, because these people are socially engaged consumers. Reaffirm to them that your brand is socially engaged and that you are kind of with the times, so to speak. So I would put those links on that page as well. This is a new advertising platform that LinkedIn is testing. It's the lead portion. When you sign up for LinkedIn advertising, they will actually give you an option to opt into their lead collection campaign. Essentially what the lead collection campaign is they'll populate over your website a bar, as you're seeing the arrow call out right there. The bar is sponsored by LinkedIn, and what it asks the user is if the user would like to be followed up with by the company through the LinkedIn platform. It's a simple checkbox, and essentially what it does is it then sends a response to your LinkedIn mailbox saying, Anna Swire would like more information about your site. Please reach out and talk to them. I've played with this tool a little bit. It hasn't been on the market that long, but it can be very difficult for companies supporting a sales team of multiple people or a larger group of sales professionals, because you cannot get this lead delivered any other way except through your LinkedIn mailbox. So you really need a dedicated representative that's willing to engage with the customer through the LinkedIn platform. I would encourage you guys to consider it and think about it. It may be not the best choice for someone who's just starting out on LinkedIn, but if you feel like it could potentially work with you, I'd give it a try. I've heard mixed results from people.
Great, thanks so much, Dan. We are going to move on into the Twitter portion of the webinar, and I am going to move through this relatively quickly. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them into the chat box, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end. There's a good chance that we may go over our hour to answer all of your questions because we want to answer as many as we can. So one real big difference between Twitter and everything else is that it's all about engagement here. It's all about retweeting. The things that are unique about Twitter are the ability to encourage people to @reply, to retweet, to click links, and to favorite. And all of these things also apply to Twitter's ad options. So I think there is a sort of understanding that Twitter is specifically for big brands, and for a long time that was true. Twitter ads were exorbitantly expensive. They were complicated to understand. The analytics weren't very good. I would like to make a prediction that in the next year or two they will kind of figure out all their problems. It will come out of its infancy. As I'm sure many of you know, Twitter recently released a small business ad platform, a self-service ad platform, which makes Twitter available to smaller companies. They've removed the $15,000 monthly minimum budget. It is only available to some advertisers, and so we're all just kind of learning about Twitter right now, so I think it's important to be critical, but to realize that there is a great deal of potential. So we'll talk a little bit about the different types of Twitter ads. And again, I will go through these relatively quickly because some of them are somewhat academic for us to learn about, because for the most part, you guys will probably be most interested in promoted tweets. So we have promoted accounts, promoted tweets, and promoted trends. Promoted tweets, they show up in the timeline along with regular tweets. These are the ads you're probably the most familiar with, and these are probably the most important for us to know about. You pay for these on a cost per engagement basis, so you really only have to pay when someone retweets to you or replies to you, and impressions or retweets are free. So if you are providing great content and it gets retweeted like crazy, you could be getting a ton of free advertising. Prices, it sort of depends, but they're usually in the $2 to $4 range for acquiring a follower, which is pricier than getting a Facebook fan or a LinkedIn click. But if you reconsider the value of someone who's following you on Twitter and you're providing great content, it could really be worth it. A promoted account is featured over there in the Twitter search results and in a section of your screen called Who to Follow. And promoted accounts are suggested to users based on their public list of who they follow. So this is sort of used by companies who are looking for more people to follow them. There isn't a ton of information on who is using this really very well at this point, which is kind of interesting. And then finally, we have promoted trends. These are the big, expensive, crazy, big brand Twitter ad platform options. You'll see these next to your timeline at the top of the organic trends. This is pretty much Twitter's premium ad inventory. We've heard numbers as much as $150,000 a day. So, practically for those of us who are not McDonald's and GM, the most interesting, I think, use of Twitter is in the use of promoted tweets. So there is a very practical way that you can use data from PPC to inform your Twitter buying. There are a couple different ways to choose where your promoted tweets will show up. One of them is that you can actually buy keywords and then have your promoted tweets show up when someone searches on that keyword. It's also very smart to use hashtags in your promoted tweets, and using your best performing keywords from PPC as those hashtags can really increase visibility. I just got a comment that I am moving fast. I promise that we will share everything after the webinar. I do want to get through this information relatively quickly so that we can move on to the questions portion of the webinar. So here are a couple sort of standard rules of the game with Twitter. If you're going to run Twitter ads, you should already have a Twitter presence. If for no reason other than that you should already know how to engage with users on Twitter, because the rules are very similar to those of having a really good, quote-unquote, free Twitter social media strategy. Next, make it shareable. The whole point of Twitter is that you are hoping that someone will share it. It's all about amplification. Use hashtags so people can find you. And encourage an action. Make it so that someone can click or share. If you have a tweet out there that just has a statement, it's less likely to be shared, and there's no action associated with it. We've all learned from paid search that we should have a call to action, and that absolutely applies to Twitter as well. Also, play to Twitter's strengths. Think about how immediate it is. Think about how it goes through the feed incredibly quickly. This could be a good opportunity for you to launch a new product or for you to talk about a coupon that you're sharing. Say something new. Say something that is exciting. This is Twitter, and the people who use Twitter are savvy and they are fast-paced. So I think Twitter is a really interesting ad platform for everyone. I do think that promoted tweets is probably the most interesting for everyone who's listening today, and it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I certainly think it will play a role in the digital marketing landscape. I think we're all watching pretty closely to see how they evolve and what they develop, and excited to see what they can do.
So let's talk about how tracking equals results. With any digital marketing channel, your results are defined by your ability to track them. Now, all of these ad platforms give you the ability to track through their own analytics, but a really sort of smart thing to do right away is to set up the ability to look at traffic sources in Google Analytics. This way you'll have data right from the beginning of any digital marketing channel that you are working on, and this will give you data that is separate from the analytics that the platform provides for you.
Certainly, and as you become a little bit more sophisticated and comfortable with the different advertising platforms, and if you are running multiple campaigns, I would suggest that you consider an analytics solution that supports cross-domain tracking, so you can see user behavior from Facebook to your website. Some of that can be done through Google Analytics. Some other third-party companies offer some other sophisticated tools to track that as well.
So I'd like to take a moment to talk about next month's webinar, which we're very excited about, PPC Landing Page Makeover Secrets. We will talk with PPC landing page experts, Unbounce. We've done a webinar with them before. They really bring it to the table. They have such intensely interesting practical tips, tiny changes you can make to drive up your conversion rate. And most excitingly, we will actually take real viewers' landing pages and fix them up, and you can all watch. So if you would like to take a screenshot of one of your landing pages or send us your landing page URL at landingpage@trada.com, there is a good chance that we might include your landing page in the webinar and teach you how to fix it. So that will be next month, and we will send out an email to everyone to let you know about it. So let's kind of wrap up here and talk a little bit about how you really need a data-generating marketing channel before you launch something like social, and to help you to continually inform your social marketing channel. And you actually need data that's very, very clean. You need to continue to optimize it because it's your way to capture and learn about customers.
Certainly, and I think with paid search, everyone would agree that it is a gold mine of data, and that everyone is most comfortable with that data, and then sort of taking that data and figuring out how to use it for social is the next step.
We're going to take just a moment to talk about how Trada can help you with paid search, and then we will get to all of your questions that we can possibly answer. So here's a little bit about the way the Trada marketplace works. So you're looking for good paid search, and you're looking for good paid search to inform your social media. We have a marketplace of advertising experts who live all around the world. They have a great deal of expertise, and they work on your campaigns on behalf of you. And just to give you an idea of the quality of these paid search experts who work on your campaigns, Dan, who is a guest on our webinar today, is one of them. So Dan, can you talk a little bit about what it's like to be an optimizer and the real quality and value that comes from having optimizers like you working on paid search campaigns?
Yeah, it's great. The Trada model for paid search optimization is really effective for, I think, all of the parties involved. I use this as a second source of income. Obviously, I have a consulting business, but I do this because I really love the Trada network, because it allows me to really take and interpret paid search as kind of a digital video game, so to speak. Knowing a lot of their optimizers out there, we're just nerds who love digging into the data and trying to write the best ad copy and competing with each other. A lot of the optimizers have great friendships with each other, and we'll share data against each other, but we love competing with each other as well. So we're all experts in our own right, and we've joined the Trada network to get out there and make a few dollars for ourselves by optimizing your ads. But what's really important for the Trada message is that we're not successful and we don't make anything from our learnings unless we're meeting the advertiser's goals and their satisfaction. So it's really a great model because as an advertiser, you're not paying for the great expertise that you get from the 5 to 10 optimizers who are on your campaign, unless they're really meeting your goals and performing to your liking. So it's a great model, and like she said, through the Trada platform, you get access to people like myself all around the world who have worked on campaigns, everything from shoes to lollipops to selling aircraft engines. So it's really dynamic.
Dan, that was awesome. The only other thing I might add is we have some technology that we've developed recently that allows us to make some data-driven decisions on which optimizers are best aligned for a specific advertiser. So if you're on this webinar thinking, well, we don't have experts with my specific vertical or industry, or don't have knowledge about this or that, I certainly assure you that we have optimizers that are experienced in all sorts of verticals, and what we do is align the best optimizers with your campaign.
Thanks so much, guys. And most importantly, to the point of this webinar, you have access to all the data. You have these experts like Dan who are doing the work on your behalf, and we share all of the data with you. We are data transparent. We will give you all of their work so that you can use it to inform your social media channels. It's really easy to sign up. You just work with Trada to set some goals for your campaign. Optimizers start to work on it. We launch it in Google, Yahoo, and Bing. And then over time, they continue to curate and improve your campaign, which is so important for generating that constant feedback about your customers that you can use to inform your social media channels. So here's just one of our customers. You can see some statistics here, a 40% increase in click-through rate, a 20% increase in conversion rate, and most importantly, they handed off all the work to the optimizers, and so the time that they spent on this has been reduced immensely.
Yeah, I would say that the Trada Marketplace has different value for different advertisers, but certainly if you're a small to medium-sized business that don't have the resources to staff a paid search expert or a digital marketing expert, Trada would be an awesome solution.
So if you'd like a demo, please go ahead and type "I'd like a demo" into the chat box. We will have one of our marketplace experts, like handsome Jordan here in the blue shirt, call you up and give you a personalized campaign assessment. And you can ask questions and get solutions, and you can learn about Trada. It's a low-pressure conversation where we can really sort of help you to understand where we can help you with search. So I want to give Dan a moment to talk a little bit about his agency. Dan?
Absolutely. My partner and I founded Addis Media late last year as a way of helping small and mid-sized advertisers really introduce their brands and products to the world in a scalable, dynamic way. Most of the companies that we work with are really intent on growing quite quickly and need an agency that's willing to keep up with the pace of their growth and respond to market trends as they evolve. I'm a Trada optimizer. I've been running paid search and social media campaigns, as I said, for about 4 years. You can reach me by tweeting at ClickAskPPC or email me at peterson@addismedia.com. You can see on your screen the spelling of my last name and the company name. If you have any additional questions after the webinar, feel free to reach out, and I will do my best to answer any questions that you guys might have, or if you have questions about your social media, something that Trada currently doesn't support, I'd be happy to take a look at your campaign and see if there's anything that I could do for you.
And everyone, we will share Dan's contact information in the email after the webinar. All right. we are finally ready to take everyone's questions. I have a ton of questions that you have all been typing into the chat box. I apologize that we have gone a little over on time. We will answer several, and we will definitely go over the hour. So please, if you don't have a meeting right now, stick around, and we will answer as many questions as we can. So I'm going to kick it off right now, and I'm going to ask Dan to start by answering this question from Sheila. Does it make sense to do social ads when your service business is only in a single market? So Dan, do you mind chiming in on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure what you mean by single market, so I'll take kind of both meanings. Social media ads can be targeted on both Facebook and on LinkedIn to a specific geographic region. So, if by single market you mean just one major metropolitan area, absolutely, it's a perfect platform for that. They have the user's information for where the user is located, so you can target your ads directly to them. The other meaning of single market would be if you work in a very niche industry. Let's say you're only selling blue widgets on Tuesday. Social media can be used effectively for doing that. It may take some testing and some targeting, but I think that this is actually potentially the most valuable use of social media, because sometimes for advertisers that have such a specific target market in mind, they can't get enough clicks through paid search or any other type of media, through email or whatever it is, and that social media really helps expand the horizon for the total number of users out there and introduce people to a brand and a solution that they may have not even known existed.
Thanks so much, Dan. And I'm going to show this next one to Chad. Jamal wants to know, how would you recommend using conversations taking place on your Facebook page or tweets toward your brand to influence your social ads?
That is an awesome question, and the thing I would point out in the first part of that question that everyone on the webinar and every advertiser should pay attention to is the fact that you're monitoring tweets or conversations on Facebook about your company. There are some tools that you can use to help monitor that. There's also just let me log in several times a day and see what people are saying. So all of that is important. But I think I would focus probably my attention in terms of advertising on identifying what type of themes seem to engage the most with our users, with the end users. So if there's a specific topic that you posted on your web or your Facebook page and it got a lot of people talking, I might figure out how to take that theme and turn it into a Facebook ad. Same thing with a tweet. If you get a tweet that is retweeted by several people, that's a theme that is resonating with your user base, and you can take that information and then turn it into paid ads to further expand your fans and followers.
Great. Thank you so much, Chad. I actually have a question now that I think Dan will want to answer. The question is from Mary, and she says, would you recommend LinkedIn promotions for B2C? So, Dan, would you mind talking a little bit about the challenges of B2C on LinkedIn and the opportunity there?
I would definitely recommend that you test LinkedIn ads on B2C for both B2B and B2C, and all of these channels. Testing is very important. So I'm going to put a disclaimer with all of this that you really need to go out and test and see if it works for you. I found for most people that they can get it to work, but it can be challenging for some advertisers. The issue with B2C advertising on LinkedIn is that you actually have too wide of an audience, and really it's important to kind of narrow down your audience into certain segments and target each segment individually. It can be tough if you're selling a product like auto insurance, where everyone out there in the world who's over the age of 16 needs auto insurance. It can be very difficult targeting those ads on the social media sphere because you have just too wide of an audience. And in this example, you'd want to narrow it down and write a specific ad to someone who's in Georgia, and a female driver that's over the age of 40. And you write an ad copy very direct to that person because you know through your targeting that you're going to reach them specifically with that ad and say, hey, Georgia 40-year-old, are you looking for cheaper auto insurance? Come check out my prices. So that's just one example of how you narrow down that scope and really try targeting a few specific groups of your target market, and then kind of expand from there.
I think Chad has something to add here.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I actually get this a lot from Facebook advertising, sort of conversely, that maybe it doesn't work for B2B and should be only focused on B2C. As Dan mentioned, and I wholeheartedly agree with him, it's all about testing. But for any marketers out there that are on this webinar that are B2B focused, I would encourage you to still explore Facebook and still test it, because it can be very powerful for B2B companies.
I've used both networks successfully for B2B and B2C for 3 and 4 different companies. So it does work. There are ways to figure it out.
Yep.
So I'll get to the next question in just a moment, but I would like to ask you to tell us what you think about this webinar. Would you like to see more of something? Did you love Chad? Did you love Dan? Please type your feedback into the chat box, and this will help us develop content in the future. So just please go ahead and tell us what you think of the webinar, and we're interested to hear more. So this next question is a real quick one that I can answer. Nick wants to know, don't most people tweet from iPhones and dashboards? Do Twitter ads work on them? So currently, Twitter ads show up on the Twitter interface. They show up on Twitter for iPhone and Twitter for Android, I believe. And they also show up on TweetDeck. But they don't show up on some of those other third-party dashboards like Hootsuite. So that is your answer, Nick. So I have a question from Derek, which I would like to give to Chad. Derek wants to know, can I use geo-targeting with Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn?
Absolutely, and I think that this is a great place to start with taking some of your data from PPC and implementing it in some of the social platforms. Facebook gives you the ability to target by state, by city. Twitter and LinkedIn also give you the ability to geo-target. So if you already have an idea of where the most success is coming from in terms of a specific geo, state, region, take that information and definitely apply that to social advertising.
Great, thank you, Chad. I'm going to send the next question over to Dan. Dan, Michael wants to know, if I only have enough budget to test one social site, which is the best one to start with?
Ooh, that is an interesting, complicated, and great question. The answer to that is going to be non-helpful, in that it depends. I think that you should kind of analyze your business and analyze the goals of your business, and then take a very specific market that you're going after and test it slowly. Go after it. In the example before, the 40-year-old in Georgia who's looking for auto insurance, and just only a few dollars a day, and really test and kind of play with things. As a broad-based generalization, if you're B2C, maybe Facebook's the best place to start. If you're B2B, LinkedIn's maybe the best place to start. But other than that, you kind of need to try them both and play around when you get the chance.
Great, thanks, Dan. I'm going to take one more question, and then everyone, if we did not get to your question, please feel free to email us. You can email me directly at anna@trada.com, and I will make sure that your question gets to the right person. So I'm going to send this last one over to Chad. Alyssa wants to know, what about trying to get an actual sale on Facebook? Can I drive that with an ad?
It's a great question, and I think that it's at the forefront of a lot of people's minds when they're considering running a Facebook ad. You absolutely can get sales with running a Facebook campaign. You can drive users from the Facebook space to a website, and we have seen several advertisers that I've worked with that are able to generate sales. I will tell you that my recommendation would be that you consider building, like I said earlier, a custom iframe landing page that keeps people in Facebook. And there are some developers out there that are developing shopping carts that can be used in Facebook. So if you really are looking to drive sales, I would consider doing a little bit of research on the shopping carts that are available and how you can integrate that with an iframe and keep it in the Facebook space. And in terms of any other conversion event that you're looking to achieve, whether it's a sign-up or a download or all of that can be built into custom pages for Facebook, and you can leverage that for your business.
Thank you so much, Chad. Everyone, I want to thank Dan and Chad so much for being here. Some really great content and info, and if you would like to reach out to them, you can find both of their Twitter handles here on this slide. So Dan, thanks so much.
Oh, thank you guys.
Hey, it was a pleasure, and happy to be on the call.
Everyone, you still have a couple more minutes to tweet something you learned in the webinar with the hashtag PPCNSocial and be entered to win a $25 Amazon.com gift card. We will send out a follow-up email with everything your heart could desire about this webinar, the slides, the recording. We will be sending out a white paper. And please continue the conversation. Reach out to us on Twitter. Ask us questions through email. We love hearing from you. And we hope we will see you in next month's webinar on landing pages with Unbounce. Thanks so much, everyone. This is the end of the webinar.